Of course, blind pickable mid laners. Now, Shen wasn't banned in the previous games.
Wasn't picked either.
Wasn't picked, but we've seen a lot of Shen priority. It's one of those picks that I personally feel like doesn't have a massive impact, but look, it's Odoamne's most played champion for the split, so take it out of there. Get away from some of that global presence. I think it's an interesting one to go this early on and just say Shen banned, but it does make sense against Odo.
Yeah, they also follow through the Braum one more time and lead Caitlyn off the board for H2K, but they are the ones that actually banned the Kalista. Remember, it was Vitality last time.
And I think this is kind of to force out the Elise for Zac trade here, because H2K either now ban, Vitality either ban Cho'Gath and then both junglers go through, or they ban one of the junglers, Cho goes through, the other jungler goes through, so Vitality get one, H2K get one. Will Vitality pivot and just say, okay, we'll not ban any of that, ban something different, you get one, I'll get two.
There we go. Well,
yeah, that's exactly what they do.
All right, good prediction. Let's see what H2K decide to lock. I feel like the Cho'Gath is something you cannot ignore.
You can't ignore it, but then the Zac. It's that big S tier. Everybody wants to play with the Zac. We saw Jankos using it beautifully. You can then ask, like, Cho'Gath top with Elise in the jungle kind of shows Vitality's hands very early on.
There we go.
It doesn't allow them to pick a top lane winning matchup, quote-unquote, because H2K could just take something like the Gnar, which can survive through the laning phase.
Very true, but mentioned earlier about putting Cabochard on something that can make the carry plays. Cho'Gath would certainly fit that bill. Yeah, they're deciding on it. It's 5 seconds down before they get the pick, and they actually decide that they want to grab Vander Thresh again.
And that means they can either go the Elise route for Djoko if they want to, or pick the Cho here. The Cho would still be able to flex.
Oh,
they
take
may
J4.
Go completely away. Yeah, again, it's another flex. They're allowing the potential for an Odoamne top lane Cho'Gath, which would be an interesting one to see actually somebody let Zac and Cho'Gath through.
If we go through this whole first pick phase and nobody picks Cho'Gath,
We've had that type of thing before.
Yeah, we have.
I think it was like a Kha'Zix one game, and we were like, oh, Kha'Zix is super OP. But the bottom lane focus for H2K right now, Xayah Rakan. We know how strong Xayah Rakan is. You picking it into the Thresh, Rakan can do well. Xayah, of course, prominent, takes it away from Steelback now, and if they don't take an AD carry here, then it becomes more difficult. Look, Caitlyn, Kalista already banned away. That Tristana now the big ticket AD carry that remains.
Yeah, puts a lot of power in Steelback's pocket as well, so the AD carries will swap for this game as we get the Tristana, and now into ban phase 2. Vitality starts off, and they get rid of the Orianna.
Yeah, it makes sense. We talked a lot in game 1 about the strength of the Orianna for Febiven. Of course, that would round out more crowd control for team fights for H2K. On the other side of Vitality, they have got this good setup for engaging the Thresh, the Jarvan. But H2K are a little concerned that this could be Jarvan jungle with the Rumble going up in the top lane for more team fighting on top of it, so don't want to let that one through. Yeah,
Odoamne not wanting to pick it either, apparently. So it's over back to Vitality. Do they stay on the mid lane train? They've already banned Cinder, they've already banned Orianna. What else can they take away from Febiven?
The Jace was one that H2K banned out themselves. We know, obviously, Febiven plays it. Now you got to look at other mid laners that are available. That Talia, the Cassiopeia, I believe, was banned out in game 1 as well. The Renekton's the other pick, that if Vitality were to go Renekton here, H2K would have to fall back to a couple of other matchups. We look at then the Gnar. The Cho would still be available, so I don't even think you're all that worried about Renekton.
Yeah, that's true. Wow, they're really letting the timer run out here as the last couple seconds tick down. They banned the Talia. So Cho'Gath left up and available. Vitality want to flex the Jarvan in the jungle, or maybe just pick the Gnar for themselves. They do.
This is them basically saying, okay, if you pick Cho, we have the Gnar matchup to scale. We don't believe Odoamne is going to play anything like an Irelia that'll counter the matchup. Looking at what is available that Odoamne has played, the Camille is there. It's not a great matchup into the Gnar. Looking, of course, towards Odoamne's champion pool, we're also looking for a mid laner out of H2K.
Ooh. Okay, well, we got a mid laner. Start things off, and the promise of something more as Cassiopeia is locked in for Febiven. That is, of course, on the blind. Vitality still valuing the chance to get the counter pick off.
Getting a little baited by the Kled hover.
I mean, it still could happen. Come on.
It could. It would be the first time we've seen it out of Odoamne.
Oh, is he going to do it? Come on. Come on. You're not going to watch
Chei is just baiting us a little.
Yeah, there we go.
First time we're seeing the Kled come out up against the Gnar. Of course, if you focus up that Gnar in that top lane, bring the jungler up, Kled can very easily take over the lane. One of the actual champions that can actually run after a Gnar in a side lane up until, of course, that frozen mallet. I'm looking forward to seeing that 1 versus 1 up top side. We know we've got a scaler in the middle lane. Is that Cassiopeia?
All right, so that's going to be the Viktor that they swap it around to for Nukeduck now. So we will have a matchup that might be kept at arm's length as well. And yeah, you know, in the top lane, it will be an unusual matchup, I think, for both of the top players. Cabochard hasn't really brought us a whole lot of Gnar, none in the summer split so far.
Yeah, first outing on both of these top lane champions here. It's been a little while since Viktor every so often drops into the games here in Europe. Of course, good team fight, good wave clear, good presence later on in the game. You've already got the rest of the team fight. You've got the Jarvan there, can lock the disco ball in. Nobody's allowed out bar the doors. Gnar comes in, throws everybody around. So again, good team fighting on the side of Vitality. On H2K's side, a lot of scaling. You've got that Kled to try and take over in the side lane. I'm interested to see whether Jankos actually spends as much time over there as he did in game number 1.
All right, a very different draft out of both teams in this game, and obviously Yamato Cannon giving some last words of encouragement to Vitality as they have one last opportunity here to try and grab themselves a win. Stay alive for the summer playoff race. If not, it will be falling down to that 4th safe spot. For H2K, looking to improve their pole position in those playoffs, already locked in. See if they can close this one out cleanly with the 2-0. Will the Bees start coming back buzzing? We will find out very shortly here. I think there is one thing we can be absolutely certain of. They will not sit idly by and go away into the night stress. Vitality are going to be bringing the pain early and often. If they can get themselves up an early lead, they've got one hell of a team fight to fall back on. And I want to see what they can do. Let's see it. Come on, Vitality, as they take on H2K, kicking things off in game number 2.
So we were talking about what Nukeduck could play, get him a decent matchup. I said give him some scaling, that'll give Vitality some insurance. Well, Viktor will do that. Viktor absolutely will do that. Scaling matchup in the mid lane, of course, Febiven, always deadly on the Cassiopeia, so that's what we got to watch out for. As good as Nukeduck is, Febiven, arguably even better.
Yeah, you know, and he's got scaling too. He actually has scales, funny enough.
Yeah, I could see where you go. You are way too far down the rabbit hole. I'm waiting for your Game of Thrones references to come out about scaling.
Oh, no, I'm saving those.
Scales
we'll see.
And all that?
Yeah. We'll see later. But I also want to see what Steelback can get done on this Tristana, right? Like, last game, Nuclear really popped off on it. But it is a reset champion. Once he starts getting those levels under his belt, if he gets a few kills, maybe Vitality can start getting their siege on. The 5-man line that they have is definitely not something to sneeze at.
No, and it's got that safety aspect that Steelback enjoys as well. Won't have to rush QSS.
I was going to say, he does enjoy not dying, doesn't he?
He does, and he can sit further back. And the later the game goes on, the further back he can sit, because he's Tristana. He'll buy a rapid-fire cannon, it'll be great, he'll go late on. Should have some sense of presence in the lane as well when it comes to that push. Xayah can have good push as well. But of course, Tristana's push is basically always existent here. You can see H2K helping out Jankos on that first camp. On the top side, a little bit of a different start out from Djoko and Cabochard. We saw in the previous game starting on blue buff, now starting up on the red buff for Djoko. Of course, Jarvan can have that early game impact, but there's already a ward placed in the river, in that pixel brush, to deny any cheesy level 2 plays around mid lane. And look, Jankos now knows this is happening. Ooh. The amount of control Vitality tried to put on the jungle early on, and Jankos knows this. He's running SKT skins. He's coming in here looking to get that power up.
Oh boy, Djoko is in trouble, gets pulled in for a kiss with the blue buff, and now he's got to contend with both. Jankos, he's looking to get himself first blood. Demacian standard smites down for health. Oh boy, let's see if he can make this play happen. A lot of pings flying right now, but Djoko, he is on the wrong side of this map.
Yeah, Cassiopeia now trying to come back in the lane. Djoko's trying to buy enough time without getting hit so that he can look to execute.
Oh no, he gets pulled in by the goo, and that's first blood. It goes over the way of Jankos, who gets his revenge from last game.
That's a nice play out of H2K. Knowing what happened in game 1, just how much focus Djoko put on the early game, trying to take out this slightly weakened Zac on 7:15, of course, had some of his early game reduced when it comes to his ability to clear safely. And look, now Djoko tries for the invade once again. The ward was already placed by H2K. Good counterplay to exactly what happened in game 1.
Oh yeah. So H2K already off to a good start. 700 gold the lead now courtesy of that first blood and the farming, Chei takes an opportunity to place down a ward inside the Vitality jungle, which of course means they'll be able to spot out where Djoko is once again. And tracking Djoko seems to be a key fixture in H2K's game plan. They were able to eventually do it in game 1, and now they're doing it again, and it's going to allow them to play with a lot more knowledge and be able to execute once again.
So we look at the bottom lane, you can see early on Nuclear and Chei have the advantage when it comes to trading in lane. We mentioned how Thresh early on, reliant on hooks. I think we're looking at a trade that happened during that invade when Jankos was going in.
Oh, that's why he has no summoners.
Yeah, that's why Nukeduck doesn't have his flash available, so that was an early trade. You can see Febiven then backed away, but look, now we're in the bottom lane, looking at that trading from Nuclear and Chei. That's what's got them this gold, the CS lead in the bottom lane. Difficult to trade onto a Xayah and Rakan without hitting a hook.
Yeah, you got to be really, really good at the predictions, of course, and Nuclear and Chei just showing that they were cut above last time against Steelback and Vander combo, but on the Xayah Rakan, there are just so many benefits playing that together now. We haven't checked in as much up in the top lane. Hasn't been nearly as action-packed as the rest. Of course, that jungle was something to contest with, but Odoamne, you know, he had a lot of stuff to say about his opponent, Cabochard. Kind of switched a little bit around on this matchup, and Odo really does like taking these champions that can go all in on your face constantly. I feel like that is still something Vitality can punish. Yeah,
it is something absolutely Vitality can punish. And in this matchup specifically, look, when Cabochard's in Mega Gnar, Odoamne has a little bit more free reign on the lane, whereas Cabochard in Mini Gnar is difficult to contend with. But bottom lane looking for the stun.
There's the hook. It was at point blank, but Steelback is already taken down to half his health, and that means the gold gap, or rather the CS gap, is going to keep on growing as he's pushed back. Now he has to back away early on. Jankos still tracking on Djoko, and this is a jungler's worst nightmare right now.
Djoko does have his flash available because remember, he did not burn it in the exchange early on, so at least Djoko can get away, but now he's getting so much stolen out from Jankos that it's difficult for him to contend with. Cabochard knows he can punish on the back end of this, but look, got to be careful of those trades coming from the Kled on the tail end as well.
Yeah, although he is hopped off Scarl right now, and there is the rage bar building, but Jankos, he might fancy a dive. He's already forced Djoko back and away. It's a bit of a tense moment. Both mid laners even want to get in on the action right now. Chei's coming. Oh, he gets a knock-up right now. Flashing forward from Febiven. The grounding is there, and so is the gravity field. And Nukeduck burning down means Febiven is going to be able to find a kill on his counterpart.
H2K very well reading the early game. No flash on Nukeduck means that Nuclear is safe enough after the recall to make sure that Chei can go up into the mid lane, capitalize on Nukeduck not having his summoners, and now we talked about how scaling is part of this game for Nukeduck. Now he's got to contend with the fact that his lane opponent already had a lead, now has a kill on top of it. And look, H2K is doing a good job of trying to just push this early game to its limits.
Yeah. Checking back in on the bottom side, too. We're already starting to see some of those leads manifesting in item differences. Nuclear on the BF sword compared to the double daggers that Steelback has. And, well, last game, Nuclear, he was doing insane damage. But his damage rating wasn't so high.
Yeah, damage rating, of course, you broke it down at the beginning of the day when you look at compared to the other Tristanas. But still, the fact that that game basically wasn't necessarily Nuclear dealing the damage in all of it. It was Orianna dealing the damage.
Yeah.
Febiven's damage rating
stole a lot of the kills. Let's to be completely honest. Like at the very end, the Shockwave would do like so much damage to everybody, and he's like, I'll get that, I got a reset, I got that, and then keep going.
I don't think Nuclear is all that fussed right now about that, because he's 20 CS up in his lane. He's like, I don't care what I did last game, I'm crushing this game, everything is going to be great.
Yeah.
Don't even need my support next to me.
I mean, the gold difference is like it's 400 at 7 minutes just off the farm. That's a pretty big deal.
It is. It's a massive deal. You can see that Vitality are trying to focus bottom side with their vision this game. They attempted to do this in game 1, but H2K ended up pushing them all the way back. And you can see that this Viktor now, flash is available, but so much attention is coming towards this middle lane that flash is going to be taken down quite soon, and then H2K will repeat gank. It's one of the difficulties with Viktor is you can repeat gank him very effectively, but now Jankos, a little caught in the enemy jungle for now, at least.
Might have bitten off a little more than he could chew, but Febiven was right behind Nukeduck, and this is the rough thing. Hook is going to go wide back and down in the bottom. Vander gets rooted up by a few feathers being pulled back, and Jankos has done to Djoko what Djoko did in the first 5 minutes of game 1, which was completely shutting him down. But now it is Jankos, the shoe's on the other foot, and he's just able to really keep this pressure on, which means Djoko can't get anywhere in these lanes.
Yeah, the thing is the fact that Jankos actually turned it back in game 1 as it is. So for Jankos, he's like, okay, business as usual. I'm all over Djoko.
You took my blue buff. I will take your life.
Whoop.
And now Chei is able to dash away. Oh, Gravity Field, Chaos Storm comes down. Febiven. Nukeduck didn't actually have the damage to follow through on that, so a pair of Twin Fangs are going to keep him at bay.
Yeah, it looked like Nukeduck just got the turn off, didn't heal, didn't flash. Just answers with the damage of his own.
It was a good heal turn, but unfortunately, he wasn't doing any more damage right now as he's not quite built for it, just an old magic mantle.
So close. He didn't use the heal. It's close. Close to I'm not one on my dancing references.
No, that's pretty good. I'll give you a 5 out of 7 for it.
I got 2 left feet. Febiven in this game has no feet on Cassiopeia, so
he can't build boots? That is I'm glad that they built that in as a mechanic. That's kind of hilarious.
I rather the idea of just having it like on a head.
Well, that was the old way.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But it was a waste of an item slot. And now he gets to have more slots for things like Catalyst.
True. Well, Flay comes through in the bottom lane.
Oh, misses on the hook. Chei was right behind, and they turn their attention over to Vander. He's thinking inside the box, but H2K were thinking out.
And this is an example where this doesn't necessarily apply, but there was a bug fix on 7.15 where at the end of Flay, there was a slight stun that was applied to the target, which actually meant Flay hooking people was a little easier than it should have been. So don't be surprised if Flays that normally would have resulted in kills on previous patches actually are escaped from with a flash, walking away, that type of thing. It's one of those situations where, like, maybe that actually wasn't working quite as intended, and it got fixed.
So which means, like, before that, I could blame all of my deaths on that at the bottom.
Exactly, it was a bug.
Excellent. I'm glad. Now I have a good excuse. But let's check back in with the state of the game. We're just about 10 minutes into this one as Cabochard trades once more into Odoamne. He's able to charge forward. He's hopped off Skarl, but he's an excellent duelist right here. And Vitality, they're still trying to make some plays, but Jankos, he's not as caught out as it would appear.
And the thing is, Jankos has so much support from the rest of H2K here. Every time he's gone into the jungle, Chei and Febiven have been around every single time. And that makes it very difficult. The Vitality are trying some of the right steps in order to punish Jankos going aggressive. Now top lane, we've got to look at Odoamne flashing out. Cabochard is starting to take a little bit of control in this lane.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Vitality will need. Those two keep going at it, but unfortunately,
Chei again.
They cannot survive in the mid. Chei goes in with a grand entrance. They don't call it that for nothing, but Febiven isn't able to get anybody on his petrifying gaze, and Vitality are out.
No kills come through, but again, the H2K trio working effectively here. It was to deny Vitality's vision attempts. You can see they got pink in the river. They got 3 wards over the red buff area of Jankos. So just trying to control anything they can of H2K to preempt some of these plays early on. Top side of the map is starting to go heavily in Vitality's favor, though.
Yeah.
I want to see them maybe make a play around that. If they let Odoamne push and then try and get top side. But right now, Djoko is sitting in the middle lane, quite low health. He's going to have to recall soon.
Yeah, he can't make the combo happen. And Djoko's just, he's been, kind of shut down throughout this game. It means his effectiveness has been very limited.
And he's trying to actually buy enough time for Nukeduck to recall, because look, Nukeduck only has a prototype Hex Core. He needs at least the upgrade for the laser. He needs to get back. He's got about 1,800 gold before the recall, so he just needs that augment to be able to wave clear so that he doesn't need Djoko sat in the lane with him.
Yeah, I mean, it's 11.5 minutes into the game. He was still, working with an iPhone 5. He's got to get himself an upgrade. So there we go. The Mark 1 comes in, and unfortunately for Vitality, since they were away, it's H2K that'll play with this Dragon right now, able to take that one down without a whole lot of contest opportunity. Still, Nuclear and Chei holding in the bottom lane. Febiven and Jankos easy peasy, and they get themselves up the Ocean Drake.
Yeah, H2K going from strength to strength. Of course, at this point in the game, a little later than Sven from G2 was talking about. There was an interview published this week talking about how early on, Ocean Dragon's good. Febiven forced to flash out the middle lane. Ocean Dragon's not going to do anything about that. Doesn't help him when he flashes.
Yeah, well, that'll be down. I mean, now we want to see that return gank, right? Like, if Vitality do want to get Nukeduck ahead in this game, like we talked about the last time around, it's still relevant on this Viktor, even if he can play very defensive. Let's see Djoko come back. Cataclysm will be off cooldown before the flashes.
Yeah, exactly. And even then, you don't necessarily need the Cataclysm to repeat this. If you can get the EQ combo onto Febiven, even, you can flash to extend the knockup range on that. So if they can get Djoko in there, just shut down Febiven. Now, the difficulty on that is the fact that Febiven maintains his ult cooldown. Now, if you jump into a Cassiopeia, chances are you are probably going to look at her in the eyes, and that petrifying gaze is going to hit you, and it's difficult to get away at that point. So that's the danger they have to really play around.
Yeah. On the other hand, though, Febiven, he did manage to get himself a Mark II already, so it was kind of like a fast insta upgrade after all that.
Vander into the middle lane.
Oh, here we go. See, Febiven, there's no flash. There's the return, so the Jarvan gets turned to stone, but there is nowhere for that snake to go. Hooked back in by Vander. Chaos Storm will be the finisher, and Nukeduck picks up his first kill of the game.
It was a good stun, but there were 3 members of Vitality in the middle lane, enough to be able to take down Febiven, and that was exactly what we wanted to see. The flash was down, and then within 1 minute, they come back around. Look, the Cataclysm wasn't even there. That's exactly the play we needed Vitality to make.
It's great roam by Vander as well. So now, let's see what Vitality can also get done. In the top side, you talked about them getting the lead. The Black Cleaver's been finished for this Gnar right now. Is this where they can take control of the game stress, where they can start to push their edge in the mid, on the top, forcing that attention and response from H2K?
Yes, and the reason is, you mentioned the top lane going in their favor. The bottom lane, the vision is in favor of Vitality. You can see there's a triangle of red wards through the bottom side jungle, and it means Jankos now is not safe, because look at how much time Vitality know they have. It's only Chei and Nuclear that can actually come in to regroup. But look, now, in comes the charge. It's Odoamne that's coming. This took a little bit longer than Vitality wanted.
Okay, flag and drag, and Djoko is out, and Cabochard, he's joined the party, and all of a sudden, it is a big one in the mid. Popping that disco music, but there was no Cataclysm for everyone to be locked into, so H2K, they get out without losing a man. Vitality, the same story.
That exchange took a little longer for Vitality than they would have liked. Cabochard now trying to take down Chei. Vander's here. Can he get the hook?
He's got a hop. He's going to have Gnar in a moment. There's nothing else for them to take around here, though, so H2K have foiled this attempt.
And there was the reason this all goes south is because it took so long. Steelback actually made the decision to stay in lane. Joker's looking for Chei.
Oh, he's going to find him. It doesn't matter if you've got the charge, the flash, the quickness, everything used to try and get him out of harm's way, but all of a sudden Vitality, they still fancy their chances, but Vander, he keeps stepping forward, nowhere for him to go, flaying back, gets the hook, in comes Steelback, but he turns tail and runs immediately, Buster Shot to push away Nuclear, and Jankos goes a-hopping. Vander's left for dead, and Odoamne has the last hit.
Good turnaround out of H2K, managing to catch out Djoko. Chei doing a great job of staying alive. Another fight kicks off here, as Djoko was looking for it.
Yeah, though Vitality are behind, you have to applaud how much they are doing to try and keep this game from going lopsided. It's almost a 2,000 gold advantage for H2K. It's going to be more with the advent of this first tower, because you see Jankos has pushed Steelback away. He's got flash, but no heal. Does not want to have to use that one. And we know that when H2K have a lead, they rarely let go.
The reason is, we saw in game 1, the same is happening, or at least starting to happen again. These towers fall incredibly quickly in succession for H2K. I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning of that fight, and how Steelback, being so far down in CS, actually couldn't get out of the lane. He had to make the decision. Does he come up to the skirmish? Does he stay in the lane? He knew it wasn't a safe path up the river, so ends up staying bottom lane, trying to recoup some of the CS. That means Vitality didn't have the numbers to turn it back around on H2K. H2K brought Odoamne in with the charge, turned the fight back around, and Djoko went to make a second play because he thought they could capitalize on the fact Nuclear was heading back bot side. It wasn't to be, because H2K find him in the jungle, end up taking down Vander for that exchange, and it all transitions into a bot tower. But look at how low mid tower is. That is where H2K's next focus is likely to go.
Yeah, well, Steelback and Vander, they're focused more on the bottom tower, and Odoamne was there to defend. Nuclear and Chei, however, they're up on the top side. It's uncontested. It just seems like this H2K team is always one step ahead. And
the reason H2K are going for top instead of mid is they're actually anticipating this Viktor being difficult to crack, and whereas top tower is basically alone for H2K. Vitality get the uncontested tower on the bottom side, H2K get it up on the top side. So you just trade the 1-for-1. Now you know you can deny any play top side for Vitality by getting the Rift Herald, and then you go for the mid tower. A lot easier to crack with that Rift Herald.
Vitality,
Viktor.
Vitality are going to stick this, though. I mean, they don't have a whole lot of minions, but they do have a Tristana. They're bringing Nukeduck as well. It looks like we're in for some serious tower trading.
Yeah, we are, and it is an inner tower on the bottom side for Vitality, which is a nice take here. But look, H2K may even get the mid-inner. I don't actually want to commit to that because the Viktor may get there in time. But look, Rift Herald will crush through. Now the Rift Herald will look to push on towards mid-inner. Viktor won't get that anywhere near enough time. This Rift Herald will do massive amount of damage, and H2K are the ones that come out ahead on this play.
Yeah, Rift Herald even still alive. Cabochard was just afraid to even go anywhere near that squad because H2K with 4 members were able to make it happen easy. They claim the lion's share in that exchange, and now it's Mountain Dragon that's on the menu.
Yeah, near perfect timing here for H2K. The fact they can rotate down towards the Mountain Drake as well. They know they see Steelback on the top side. There's no contest that's going to come through from Vitality. And again, it's H2K just coming out on these objective trades ahead of things. They've been up in the lanes, in the bottom lane, and somewhat in the mid lane for the majority of this game. And now they're turning it into objectives.
Well, H2K, talked to the beginning of the series. They team with better execution, have been inconsistent at times, but when they face off against teams lower than them in the standings, well, would you know it? They tend to be a few steps ahead, and we have seen it time and again. So now it's a 3,000 gold lead, 4 towers to 2 at 18 minutes. And of course, that Mountain Dragon's going to help them try and push objectives even further.
Yep, it will do. Looking as Vitality look to make a play up on the top side. Perfect Hex score has been completed for Nukeduck, so augments that ultimate move speed as well. Means, of course, that added crowd control comes from the gravity field you've got to be careful of. It's no longer just the route in place, but with Baron coming up in 50 seconds, H2K, they won't be looking to rush this like they did in the last game. They, of course, found a good opening by the fact that Cabochard and Nukeduck committed to the bottom side. If that were to happen again, H2K likely would make the same decision.
Yep. And they're able to play on these side lanes pretty effectively, but some credit to Vitality, too, because they have been able to match at least some of that tower attention, so keeping up with 3 towers comparatively. You see Cabochard moving down to clear away the wave. Definitely not out of this game just yet, but it's slowly slipping out of their grasp as Djoko gets the smite down, secures that red buff. And goes Jankos. Oh, he really wants this fight. Teleport coming in for Odoamne, going to be matched by Cabochard. H2K decide, maybe we don't want this after all, or at least we want it on our own terms. Djoko goes in, but he was the one who was caught up in the Cataclysm, and now Nukeduck's gone bouncing against his will, with Febiven getting the finishing blow. Cabochard comes in and whiffs on the Gnar ultimate. So H2K, they may get stunned for just a second, but Vitality are the ones who are getting shocked as Nuclear pulls those feathers out, and it's 3 kills for H2K.
That's exactly what H2K needed with Baron being live. Now head into the Baron pit. And look, that fight was very fragmented from Vitality. First, Djoko gets picked off, then a beautiful turn from H2K onto Nukeduck. They recognize if Nukeduck is dead, Steelback does not have enough damage this early on. He is too far behind. Now H2K should be able to secure this very easily. Looked for the charge to follow up on the rest of the fight.
Well, that flay is only going to delay the inevitable here as Vander's caught, rooted, blown back, and Steelback even spent his buster shot just to try and buy some time, but that's the 7th kill of the game for H2K, and at 20 minutes, they've got the Baron buff. They're marching up top. Vitality scattered to the winds.
And this is the exact time that H2K want to be fighting. Look, they've got the Zac tanky enough. They've got a good enough damage source from this Cassiopeia, from the Xayah. It's only going to get stronger.
They have to fight this one out. Vitality cannot afford to drop a game anymore, but they are looking on the back foot, looking to get shut out here in this second game, and that means the end of their playoff ambitions. Vitality desperately need to find a fight to turn things in their favor, but it's getting so much more difficult.
Yeah, a loss here would lock Vitality in 4th place in the group. And looking at team fights like this, beautifully done from H2K, makes it hard to see how Vitality can fight their way out of this. Look, first they go on Djoko. Djoko puts himself in the fight, no backup, and then Chei instantly, as soon as he sees Nukeduck, gets right on top with the knock-up, the quickness. Odoamne barely survives the rest of the fight, but is able to recall out and regather himself from there. Cabochard, he's already whiffed the Gnar, and from there doesn't have too much more presence. Vander and Steelback have nothing to do but to watch.
Man, that's why you call H2K hard to kill, man. These guys really, in these team fights, outclassing the Vitality members for the most part. Despite the valiant effort, victory is getting ever surely out of their grasp, and that Baron buff has certainly been helping out to try and close out more of these towers. This is going to be number 6, Odo and Jankos, unopposed. Now Febiven's even going to join. Vitality, time is running out for this team.
H2K picking up where they left off against Splice, looking very dominant, knowing how to make these fights work for them. And you have to feel like Nuclear and Chei are coming into their own now. As we get later on in the split, they start ramping it up. They did it on the lead up to playoffs in spring, and then unfortunately for H2K had that kind of disastrous series. But now you have to somewhat be convinced by Nuclear and Chei. They are looking very strong as a bot lane duo. They're always there to follow up on when Jankos goes in.
Yep, and he wants to go bounce, and the team says that is perfectly fine. We're invited to this dance, and Nuclear's going to grab 1 kill. Meanwhile, Odoamne had his eyes on Steelback and was able to shut him down solo. Even with a couple of guards around, Cabo and Vander couldn't do a damn thing. H2K looking to march into the base, and as you said, Stress, they are looking hot for playoffs. This puts them in such a better position to try and get themselves up in that first place spot. They would not have to then play in the quarterfinals. Let's see what they can do to try and close this one out. Febiven not even here. He's going to be slithering into this base, and H2K inside of it can easily start to shred through this tower. Baron buff still ticking for 30 seconds as Vitality have not managed to take it away from anybody. And this inhibitor is going to fall. The one in the mid already down. Vitality backs against the Nexus, trying to make a hero play. And H2K, they will not push their bounds just yet, but Djoko says, everybody get in the pit. And he has to immediately bail out.
Yeah, no real follow-up from the rest of Vitality. They're trying to bide as much time as they can here. Nukeduck looking to try and get damage up. He knows there's still damage in his kit.
There we go. Instantly charmed Djoko. He went in on a Dragon Strike once again, but Nuclear pulled the feathers out. And this will be the final fight, it looks like, as Jankos finishes off Nukeduck. The rest of Vitality are falling. It's Cabochard, Steelback, the last member standing. And H2K do not lose a man. Only 1 death in this entire game so far.
The only death was that repeat gank on Febiven, and from there, H2K have looked absolutely dominant in this series against Vitality. Look at it, close this in. It's under 25 minutes right now, and they're pushing onto the Nexus tower.
Flexing their muscles, H2K, 1 Nexus turret goes down, looking for Cabochard before the Mega Gnar can be completed. It's gonna go up, but they're going bouncing, and now Febiven is going to get 1 kill off Djoko one last time for a desperate charge, but he just
didn't even
can't get it done. They pull in the snake, doesn't want it. It looks like as Steelback hops back, trying to save the base, but H2K only have eyes for the Nexus right now as they look to push this one in and close it out. It is not even 25 minutes into this game, and Vitality's hopes and dreams are being crushed. Playoffs are out of reach, and H2K take the sweep.
H2 what? H2 locked. That's what it is. Locked into the playoffs even before this series, but look at it, 2-0, looking very confident. H2K are on the same page. Individually, they're looking very strong, and they are working well in these team fights as well.
And this has been so incredible to see for a team that throughout their history and various iterations, that has always been a huge criticism, that they aren't always on the same page in clutch situations, in engages. But today against Vitality, they looked like a well-oiled machine. As Jankos gives his old buddy Vander a hug. Got a smile after that one. It does suck to lose, but for Vitality, they will be locked into their safe 4th position.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Vander and Jankos probably saying, oh, I nearly had you in that game. You say it, they're locked into 4th spot. That means no promotion tournament at all. They just are safe. They come back in the spring split. Vitality will now still have 2 more series, I believe, to finish off the split.
Good practice.
Yeah. Unfortunately for Vitality, though, it doesn't have any kind of playoff standings impact. Whereas H2K, they're in the playoffs. We don't know where and what seed they're going to take.
Unicorns and Splice are hot on the heels, of course. Remember, those 2 teams will play each other tomorrow, so that will be instrumental in seeing how the playoffs in Group B shake out. Of course, it's definitely heating up.
And you have to look at it almost certainly. This should mean H2K will avoid G2. Very unlikely they'll be in that 3rd spot right now. Still mathematically possible, but considering the form H2K are on right now, they do look like the strongest team in Group B.
Yeah, so long as they can keep that one up and finish out the split strong and look to avenge what happened in the playoffs last time around. And everybody has to be happy on the H2K side with that performance. He's probably given his team a round of applause. Well played all around. I mean, every single player did exactly what they needed to throughout that series.
Yeah, it was very convincing. Very convincing. And I think as we were talking a lot during the game, Nuclear and Chei kind of coming into their own again. Glad to see that, as a lot of the questions about H2K have been around how do they play around their bottom lane? Do the fights work out? I feel like a lot of the questions we've raised about H2K over this season in general, when you take spring into account, like the team fighting, I think have actually been somewhat answered by H2K. I feel like the faithful maybe Deficio getting rewarded
he's already
by the
back on the train.
Yeah, he's on the train.
I feel like if there are doubts about H2K, like right now they are definitely looking to silence them. I want to see how they are able to do against some of the better teams, but all the same, like masterclass performance against Vitality.
Yeah, and individual level as well. H2K stepping up. I mean, Febiven's stepping up. I kind of thought he was not having the best split to begin with, and then crushes everything for the last few weeks. So individually, Febiven, Odoamne, Jankos as well.
Yeah, speaking of Jankos, he's going to be our player of the series, and honestly, leaving Zach open a couple of times to a player like that, holy moly, man, that's a mistake you don't want to make.
And I think you can see where Vitality were trying to play around it. Say, hey, how hard did 7:15 changes hit the Zag? How much can we punish there?
Not hard enough.
Yeah, not hard enough. Jankos was able to very confidently come back in game one and then play just with one ward, saving him in game two. Beautiful start to that game.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the adaptation too. Like H2K are a smart team. They know how to adapt to situations. When a team's going to try to throw the same strategy at them time and again, and that's going to be the difference maker in the early game.
Yeah, I believe we are setting up for an interview. Looks like with Prolly. I spy with my little eye across the studio. So
I'm glad your eyesight is good. I wasn't able to see it.
I'm glad. I'm glad. Although sometimes it's still really bad. So.
All right. Well, with that result, the playoff teams from Group B are all decided. Let's hear from H2K's coach for more.
Thank you very much, guys. First and foremost, Prolly, you just made playoffs. Guaranteed yourselves, Splice, and the Unicorns of Love will all make into the postseason. Did you know that was on the line today?
I did not know. I did have a weird feeling. I was like, I think Vitality is going to try something new because I feel like they really need to kill us right now. So I predicted something like kind of weirder in the draft happening. And yeah, I just completely forgot this was a playoff important game. I was just playing LCS.
I'm actually really happy to hear that, and I will follow up on that in a moment. But I want to talk about the draft because game two, it felt to me like you were having a bit of fun. Kled into Gnar in the top lane, Xayah Rakan in the bottom lane. That didn't feel traditional H2K. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. These are things that we're practicing a lot, though, and I really wanted to see how different our scrim play with these champions would be compared to our stage play, so we can work from there. But yeah, this is definitely not traditional H2K, but in general, I mean, like the pick ban was very, like you can't play traditional when there's like all these champions left open. So we knew we had to do something kind of new, and then, yeah, I just really wanted to play those champions. And the Kled and the Gnar is not that bad, by the way.
Oh, I've never implied it was. I'm just glad to see it.
It wasn't trolling or like disrespect.
Hey, dude, 2-0. You guys won. It was very convincing victory. I have a personal question. I feel like the H2K players are super serious at the moment. It feels like the boys are very focused, are very, laser-eyed, laser-pointed on the games. Is there something different backstage? Is there a different mindset, considering you guys crashed out in spring in the quarterfinals?
Yeah, I think for the last couple weeks, it's definitely been a lot more business, and the mood has been a lot more serious in the house. And I mean, I've been beating my players a lot more than usual, so that could be kind of the demeanor you see off of them. But really, it's, yeah, I don't know. We're never in a spot where I'm satisfied, and they keep showing glimpses of like really big improvement. So it kind of makes me want even more than I normally do. So because they show me how well they can play, now I just keep harassing them to play better. So they're never like able to just stand still.
I'm really happy to hear that. I want to show you the standings really quickly over in Group B, of course, because as I mentioned, you have now clinched playoffs not only for yourselves, but for the Unicorns of Love and Splice. And if you look at that table over there, Prolly, if you win your next 2 games against Mysterious Monkeys and you are well, you also take first. Guaranteed spot in Paris, guaranteed not to choke and fail in the quarterfinals. So how important is it to take down Unicorns next week and take #1 in the group?
I don't know, in the grand scheme of things, I feel like it's not really big. Like if we're in like playoffs and we're in good form, beating them now or later doesn't really matter, but it's more of like a personal vendetta. Like I really want to win that, and I think all my players do as well. So the fact that it would put us first in the group is just kind of icing on the cake. And it's more of like the eagerness to just defeat them, and because we've had bad bad matches against them in the past, I think is going to drive us more than anything.
I have two last questions just before we go to the ad break. First and foremost, I have mentioned a few times already, H2K have a history of failing at the biggest hurdle in the split. Deficio famously said he lost faith in H2K.
Good for him.
What can you say you're doing differently for the Summer Split playoffs to prevent that happening?
Well, one thing I do is whenever I do see Deficio, I make sure he doesn't root for us on the analyst desk because it pretty much curses us every time. The second thing is, I don't know, things have been a lot more, harder early. Normally when it like kicks up a notch, it's normally towards playoffs, but instead it's been a lot more like hard on the players like now, 2 or 3 weeks before playoffs. So hopefully this kind of change in pressure from scrims will make like the stage a lot more comfortable, and we'll be like a lot more prepared, and we won't have, a new playstyle we're not used to, because I think we know all of the teams by now.
I'm really happy to hear that. Feels like the pressure kicks in early, you peak at the right time.
You're a very happy guy.
I am all the time. One final question. Deficio and Sheepy ranked H2K the 3rd best team in Europe, behind Fnatic and G2 respectively. Is that a fair placement based on your professional opinion?
Yeah, I mean, when you make rankings and stuff, you can't pull things out of thin air or under secret knowledge that you have. So I think based on the rankings, I think that's really, really fair. However, I think in terms of skill ceiling and satisfactory gameplay, I feel like I would put H2K a lot higher than 3rd.
What is a lot high? Give me a number.
Above 3.
Okay, 1st or 2nd is what Prolly's saying, dude.
Yes.
Congratulations on playoffs. Good luck next week. We'll see if you make it to semifinals and Paris. We're going to head to an ad break, and when we come back, Fnatic take on Roccat.